Ahoy, ladies and gents, welcome. How are you doing? Right, first things first. Not going to be 100% today. Getting pissed all weekend. Texting out here when you get to my age. Definitely feeling like a bit of brain fuzz. So if I'm not as witty and hilarious today, I apologise. Rehydrating doesn't seem to have put my brain back to normal. Who's in? Plenty of you. How are you doing? Amanda Sky's in, Jeff Wedden, Sean Wright, Patriotic Brit, 51 North, Mike Hawk, Derek Thompson, Trevor Rapley, Nick Yaxon, how are you doing? Harold Stewart, Origami Pig, Two-Tone Online Killer, Amanda Sky, IV7, Myth Matlaw, Cragsy, Mike Taylor, Slim, Matt McCoy, and Jeff Wedden, everybody else, how are you? Right, there's a few good things happened. The Monday stream's always easier because there's so much shit goes on the weekends. I guess everybody goes a bit mental when they let their hair down on a weekend. The big story that I found on BBC, which I found interesting, was the US Supreme Court one, because I think that anybody with half a brain knows that needs to go anyway. But it's funny that the BBC will make out like this is some sort of controversial decision. I mean, fuck me backwards. Only in 2022 can you actually think this is a controversial decision. But I'm not going to instantly talk about that because I do want to, even though it's not really on the screen, maybe I can find a good story, but the BBC hasn't really covered it too much. Paul Pelosi, right? If you don't know, let me see if I just BBC Paul Pelosi, see if I can get something. Because I do, as you know, despite the fact I have long rambling streams, I do try to at least keep within the theme of keeping everything on the BBC, because obviously the whole reason I started doing YouTube, 3 years ago now, was to set the piss out the BBC. Like, I hate the BBC. Ultimately, if there is only one aim of this channel, it is to see the BBC reduced to fucking dust. I would celebrate. I would have a 3-week erection if the BBC got bulldozed while the 9 o'clock news was on. So that's why I like to try and keep on the BBC when I'm doing things. So here we go. There we go. I've got one on the BBC, so we can do this one. I don't know how big of a story it was in England, you see, because obviously I'm US based. But for those of you that don't know, Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, which is a big job in America. If some terrific accident kills the president and the vice president, the Speaker of the House takes over. It's not a small gig, you know what I mean? It's like probably about the equivalent would be, it's not like the Speaker in Britain, that little fucking pipsqueak. What was his name? Burko, the little shrill hobbit. It's not like that. It's basically like being the Home Secretary or something. Like if something happens to the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, the Home Secretary probably gets the gig, right? So that's how Pelosi is. So she's big. She's a big deal. And her husband got his head smashed in with a hammer on the weekend. It's been reported by the mainstream media as this big fucking deal because Elon Musk tweeted a conspiracy theory about it, right? And I believe I mentioned this in my stream before I left on Thursday? And I said I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it was as they were advertising it, because it just seems too convenient that it's just before the midterm elections on November the 8th. And it didn't seem to it just didn't add up. So I thought maybe they were just making it up. I pointed out that if a fucking 80-year-old gets attacked with a hammer by a 40-year-old, he basically wants to kill him if he's attacking someone with a hammer. You'd be dead, right? If you're 80 years old and your assailant's 40 years old and he's got a hammer, if he wants to kill you, you're fucking dead. 80-year-old men can't fight 40-year-old ones. Christ, I'm only 43 myself now, so I don't think I'd fancy my chances against a 23-year-old. Like, age is a big issue. That's why you don't see Olympic gold medal boxers when they're 55, right? 8-year-old men can't fight 40-year-old men. So I instantly thought there was something dodgy about it. Turns out, I'm assuming some of you guys who follow me have already watched Paul Joseph Watson's video about it. But basically, he, like he always does a great job of collating all the information and then disseminating it to us normies. It was all fucking dodgy. It was all dodgy. So the short version, I mean, I'll read you some of this and see if these hacks at the BBC mention any of it. An intruder attacked the husband of US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi was searching for the Democrat politician. Reports say Paul Pelosi, 82, was taken to a hospital after a break-in at their home. The suspect's been identified as a 42-year-old man and is facing criminal charges. He broke a glass door after confronting Mr. Pelosi, saying, "Where's Nancy?" So they didn't mention any of the controversy, right? Just says was attacked at his home by an assailant who acted with force. None of it. They're not mentioning any of the controversies, right? It was 2:30 in the morning, right? Bit weird. He was in his underwear, which isn't mentioned here. And the police, all this has gone on. He's obviously been in the house for ages. And they apparently didn't assault him with the hammer until the police have physically turned up. So they're obviously having a lengthy chat, a lengthy altercation. And it was only when the police have physically arrived and they're going towards him that he then wrestled with Mr. Pelosi for a bit, pulled the hammer away, and twatted him with it. So it was like his blood was up there and the coppers were there. He knew he was off. He knew he was off to jail. So it all sounds dodgy as fuck. And as someone said in the chat, he was wearing his undies, right? So they've said, oh, it's this crazy conspiracy theory that that he was at a gay bar picking up, cruising for cock all the time, right? But none of it adds up at all. And about 2:30 in the morning, what time did normally leave the gay discos? About 2? I just think about that. About 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And there's a phone call. Again, Paul Joseph Watson will show you the footage if you just go and watch his video, where he's on the phone to the dispatcher and he tells the copper his name and says he's his friend, his special friend. Yeah, he's a friend who's been in me. Yeah, a friend who's been in you. So it's a bit weird, that, isn't it? Bit weird. It's all mega dodgy. Like I said, if you go and watch the video Paul Joseph Watson made about it, he collates all that information. It's mad. It is definitely dodgy. He's not just... You're in and out. If you just want to go in and kill the cunt, take your 10 minutes, tops, in, stove his head in, out, see you later. It's not like, oh, you go and ring the police, ducky, and then I'll be rolling around on the floor here with my undies on and my lubricated hammer. Copper was like, why has this hammer got KY jelly on it? You know what I mean? Where's this hammer been? I tell you what, I know coppers wear rubber gloves when they're on a crime scene. You're definitely going to want to wear rubber gloves when you pick that hammer up because you don't know where it's fucking been. Coppers like picks up a hammer, he's like, you smell shite. So you don't even want to know where that hammer's been. So that's dodgy, innit? That is all dodgy to me. I don't know if that's feasible. I jokingly say bum your head off, but I don't know if you can bum someone's head off. Maybe you can. Maybe you can. But it just makes me laugh that after all that information's come out, they've leaked the phone conversation. Everyone's heard it. Everyone's seen it. They've heard the coppers talking about it. None of this is mentioned in this lengthy BBC story to give you some filler look. They just constantly talk about his background and that, like loads of shit. The couple have been married since 1963 and have 5 children, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you're not going to talk about the story then, that the bloke had his undies on. Why is he wearing his undies? If you want to go and kill someone because you're a right-wing fanatic, I mean, they're all into military shit, aren't they? If it was a right-wing fanatic who just wanted to go and kill Nancy Pelosi and her husband, he'd be wearing all black and have like boot polish on. You know what I mean? Boot polish, a little day sack, some black Marlow and a fucking pickaxe. going like he thinks he's in the Navy SEALs, camped out in the middle of the night. It wouldn't be underpants and a lubricated hammer. Like, I'm just saying, it sounds a bit dodgy. But apparently, BBC doesn't feel they should mention any of this. It doesn't say leaked tapes of the dispatch call have Mr. Pelosi referring to him as his friend, his lubricated underpant-wearing friend. Like, seriously, what was he wearing his undies for? Literally just his undies and now else. And they don't think that's weird. It's as weird as Jeffrey Dahmer when one of his bum boys ran off up the street and just wearing his undies, and the coppers were like, "What's going on here? You don't just wear your undies, or you're going to go do a political assassination, do you?" Right, here's the plan, lads. Get your plan out. Get your blueprint. Right, we've got exits here, entrance there. We're going to do it at 0200. What's the dress code, boss? Undies. Undies. What? No boots, shoes? Nah. Undies. Shouldn't we wear black because it's nighttime? No. This is the plan. We're gonna do this professionally, by the book, lads, by the numbers. It's a political assassination. We need to be on the same page. Right? Operation Sound 0200. Dress code, undies. Now else. Can't even wear a t-shirt. No. Nipples out. Nipples out on this up, lads. It's important. Can I put some boot polish on my cherry red nipples at least? No. No, when the coppers turn up, I want you rolling around in your fucking Y-front on the front garden with your lubed up hammer. Totally makes sense. Definitely nothing dodgy. So there you go. That's a beauty, isn't it? Like I said, if you haven't seen it, go and watch Paul Joseph Watson's videos about it. In fact, I'll get you the link because I like Paul Joseph Watson. Go and look at it. Not that he needs fucking help from this paltry channel, but where's the link? It seems a bit odd. Yeah. Oh, what's that? Fucking mad. Oh, collated it all. It is. It's off it. There's loads. It's just well dodgy. And then the BBC don't want to tell you about it. It's fine. It's fine. We know where your loyalties lie, BBC. You dirty commie rat bags. What else have we got from them? All right. So this is the one I was going to talk about. In case there's anybody out there who's insane and thinks this was a good idea, right? US Supreme Court takes up race-based college admissions. Now, what happened with this one? Again, I'll give you the background. Well, in fact, I'll just read you the fucking story, shall I? Always just give you my own spin on things. I should at least read the BBC every now and then. The US Supreme Court is hearing two cases that could dramatically alter the extent to which universities can consider an applicant's race during the admissions process. The eventual ruling could end decades-old affirmative action policies and significantly affect how universities manage admissions. Arguments in both cases began at the Supreme Court on Monday. Affirmative action is among the most contentious issues in US education. The cases concern admissions at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The court is hearing challenges to their admissions policies, which consider race among many factors, right, when evaluating applications. The reason that I've highlighted the term there, among many factors, is because, again, anybody who's not a moron knows exactly what's gone on here. And it's as simple as this. Because Asians do better at school than everybody else, right? It's a known fact. They do better at school than everybody else. Everybody knows why, right? It debunks anyone who's ignorant enough to be a full-blown white supremacist is debunked there, because they do better at school than everybody else. People who think that we've got some sort of IQ advantage, it's not true. The highest IQs in the world, you've got Ashkenazi Jews and South Koreans, Japan, they're all high up. The main reason appears to be culturally, right? Totally makes sense to me as a white bloke. We've had it too good for too long. Middle-class white people started falling by the wayside because middle-class white people have had it too good for too long. And when a middle-class white arsehole has his daughter say to them, I want to go to university, Daddy. He says, what do you want to be, princess? And she says, I want to study lesbian dance theory. He goes, well, whatever you want, love. I want to go and play the cello. I've got whatever you want, princess. You go and do what you want. Asians, because a lot of them have come from poverty. My mate Jude, I told you, he's done great for himself. He's an aerospace engineer. He's made plenty of money. He's right-wing as fuck. He's Indian. He slept on the floor. He told me until he got a scholarship and got to college in America, he didn't even have a bed. He'd never slept in a bed before till he got to America. So actually poor. And actually poor people pick what they know is going to pay the bills. It's that simple. Nobody puts it in these. This is another thing that interests me. Even people like Jordan Peterson, who I like, they don't put it in terms as this stark because they don't want to be accused of being like politically incorrect in some way, I think. But it's literally this obvious to anybody who's actually normal and working class and knows how it is. If you're broke and you're from a genuine background of poverty, if your family find out you're lucky enough to have got a scholarship and go to university, they'll say to you, you must be studying what's going to pay. In fact, they'll probably go on Google, find out what's the best paying degrees at the time, and then just fucking study it. Whereas old money, when you've never been crushingly poor, you don't worry about money so much. You go, I want to follow my dreams. Or what do you want to study? I want to learn about pottery. Go on then. I'll pay 50 grand a year for you to go and study pottery at fucking university. Are you a plank? Like, if you come from poverty, Asian families are going to be like, well, I Googled it and apparently the best paying degrees in the world now is like aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science. Okay, I'll go and study that. It's very fucking simple. And they always have a dad in the house. Everyone knows that. Asian families always have a dad in the house. They're very close-knit. They have a strong sense of community. So they do better at school. So the reason I've highlighted this term here, among many factors, is because Harvard, specifically Harvard, because I read about this in depth a couple of years ago, Douglas Murray talked about it. Basically, Harvard started being overtly racist towards Asian people because they got involved in this weird Black Lives Matter communist propaganda whereby the people who need help the least get the most. And they started just anybody who was of the right colour was just given a place at Harvard, even if they were a fucking plank. So they started using this among many factors line to say, oh, no. We're not discriminating against Asians because they have the best exam results. And that's all that should matter when you want to get into what used to be one of the best universities in the entire world. So they said, our acceptance program is so complex. And we consider race among many other factors, but you wouldn't understand. It's too complex. So we'll just keep doing it, and you wouldn't understand. Like the Silicon Valley twats are with their algorithms. When they ban me off fucking YouTube and Twitter, and then go, oh, but we're not telling you why. It's just reasons. We won't tell you why. We'll deny that we do it. We'll shadow ban everybody who's conservative, and we won't tell them why. It's complicated. So the hid behind the "it's complicated" line, because they were being overtly racist to Asians. So the Asians started lying about it. I've seen a video about an Indian bloke who shaved all his hair off and then started going on the tanning tube, so he got mega dark and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm African American." The bloke was fucking Indian. He knew that they were being racist against Asians. So he pretended he was black. It's funny as that, isn't it? Like, he's an Indian bloke. He started going to Tang fasting 6 times a fucking day. Got himself as dark as possible. Shaved all his hair off so they couldn't see it wasn't of the same texture as African American people's hair. And went in and he was like, "Yeah, my dad's from fucking Nigeria." And then he got in, and because they're racist, and when all of the Asians know that they have to lie and try and pass themselves off as black, everybody knows they're being racist. Everybody knows Harvard were being racist. And just like what they do in Silicon Valley now in the walk, they deny what everybody can see. It's the brass neck on them that really, really astounds me. Everybody can see it. It's like me denying having blue eyes. I'm sitting here right in front of you and I'm going, no, the brown, you cunt. They have this brazen ability to just outright barefaced lie in front of the whole world, and they don't care. Like, they don't have any shame. Do you know what I'm saying? It used to be shameful to lie. And nowadays, because the commies run the world and all they do is lie, nobody has any shame about telling lies. That's why I lost my rag back in the day with a few years ago when I had my troll. I don't even say his name because I know he still watches. It's like, he's a weird, absolute weirdo. I allowed him to talk shit in the comments for 6 months. But when he started going, you're a liar, you're lying about this, when I don't tell lies. I've got about 10,000 hours on here now. I don't tell lies. I just tell you my opinion. And I report the facts as well. I read the BBC, for fuck's sake. He said, oh, you're a liar. No. All the left do is lie. I don't. I just give you my opinion. And that is yet another truth that I'm telling you. Everybody knows that Harvard lie and that Harvard are racist because all of the Asians started saying, if you want to get into Harvard, you have to try and pretend that you're black. If you can convince them that you're of African descent and not Asian, you've got more chance of getting in. The Koreans know it. The Japanese know it, the Chinese know it, the Indians know it, the Pakistanis know it. Everybody of Asian background knows that Harvard are explicitly racist, and it was almost impossible to get in, no matter what your grades were, if you were Asian. So this thing here, it's among many factors, is just the typical wokists, dirty, lying, commie rats that they are. Oh, no, we consider race among many factors. No, it's the only factor. And they were going, no, it's too complicated for you to understand. It's too complex for you to understand. So just trust us. Race and many factors. No, the only factor. You're racist. You commie ratbags. Black people at the top of the tree now. And they can have shitty grades and they will always get a place above a Korean lad who's hardworking, diligent, fantastic grades, a Japanese lad, whatever. Chinese, American. No, they just go, fuck yous. You're not the right colour. Which is the definition of racism, isn't it? Sorry, you're not the right colour. There's a word for that. There's a word for that. Weird, isn't it? They knew the word for it if you did it in England in the 60s and you tried to go into a place and the bouncer went, sorry, mate, you're not the right colour. They knew what the word for it was then. But when Harvard say, sorry, son, you're not the right colour, they go, no, that's just, it's just too complicated for you to understand. Oh, it's colorism. It's colorism. That's another total pile of shite. If you ever haven't heard that term before. Because that's what they have to do. They started saying that it was impossible for black people to be racist or Asians to be racist or any minority group to be racist because of this I feel funny even saying it because the stuff that the woke, lefty, commie, degenerate, heathen savages say to me is so illogical and illiterate. It's almost comical repeating it. But that's something they've said a lot. Oh, no, because racism is based off power plus privilege. No, it isn't. It's based off one thing, being racist, discriminating against people because of the race. They started this whole narrative because they were saying they basically wanted free reign to be able to say, you're white and I hate you because you're white and I hope you all die, like Sarah Jeong, that fucking lunatic who works for the New York Times. Did anyone see her? That fucking full-blown race hate, prejudiced, bigot, fucking psycho that got a promotion at the New York Times, who was tweeting stuff all the time, like, oh yeah, kill all, I love fucking making white men cry. You know, why don't the white people go and live underground like the little horrible goblins they are? Like full-blown racism. So because they wanted to be able to peddle hate and not get in trouble for it, they said, oh, no, racism, the Oxford English Dictionary doesn't know what it's talking about. Racism has to involve power and privilege. And therefore, if a black man says, let's kill all those white, I was going to use, can you say the C word now? You probably can't. You can if you're black, but you can't if you're white, because they'll get me and say, oh, you were being racist towards a group there. So that you get a black dude going on Twitter going, kill all the white people, fuck them all, I hope they all die, sterilise them, eat the babies. And they're going, oh, that's not racism. Nah, it's fine, because you need power and privilege to be racist. Yeah. So that's what they did. They rebranded it. And then, lo and behold, a couple of months later, you get like an Asian person being racist to a black person, and they go, fuck. It doesn't work anymore because we've already said that the only people that can be racist are like straight white men. So now we've got people being racist to black people, but they've got a bit of a tan. Or you might get an Indian being racist to a black person, or a Korean being racist to a black person. All of a sudden, because they have to turn themselves upside down and in knots to make the bullshit woke commie propaganda make sense, all of a sudden you're at an impasse again, aren't you? And this is what I keep saying about how you just know on the face of this that everything they're saying is bonkers. It's upside down. It's irrational. Because if you just go off the old definitions we had in the fucking 70s, racism is prejudice based off someone's race, then it's easy and it works. If a Chinese bloke's being overtly racist, calling a black man the N-bomb all the time, yeah, he's just being racist. Then they started saying, no, power and privilege and oppression and intersectionality umbrella. And all of a sudden, fucked. The world doesn't make sense anymore. Korean says, I hate N. And they go, yeah, but technically power privilege is the third year. 2 + 2 = 7. I know, he's being colorist. They have to invent more and more words. Every time they disappear down a rabbit hole where they make shite up, it's irrational and doesn't make any sense to anybody. They have to start inventing more words. It's like they've done with fascism. Start saying things like fascist adjacent. You know what I mean? What the fuck does that mean? When the world was sensible, you just had fascists. People like Benito Mussolini, whereby you criticise him, you get a bullet in the head. And then they're like, oh yeah, Trump's a fascist. And all the people who were like, in fucking Auschwitz go, hang on a sec. Doesn't seem like he's a fascist. What's fascist about him? So they go, well, we'll just change that, and we change that, and we cross that out, and write this in, and do this sort of fascist. Yeah, he's a fascist. And you go, oh yeah, what about Boris Johnson? Fascist. What about bog standard, boring, middle of the road conservative like Jacob Rees-Mogg? Fascist. And then all of a sudden, all the logical inconsistencies come up because they're not doing anything fascist. So they go, oh, let's just fascist adjacent. Yeah, there we go. Just keep inventing new words. It's like genders. Oh, we went from 2 to fucking 50 because they just keep inventing new words because they're insane. So that's what happened there is the long version. Harvard are racist. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. All the Asians know it. Everybody knows it. Policies are designed to boost the number of blacks and Hispanic. No. Black. That's who they were boosting the numbers of. Racist. And intended to ensure minority groups are fairly represented, yeah. And all it did was make sure that minority groups got utterly fucked in the poorest people in the world coming from the most oppressed countries, not privileged, lucky, comparatively well off Americans. You know what I mean? If you're born and raised in Chicago and you happen to be black, are you telling me that you're worse off than a bloke born and raised in the fucking poorest province of India and he's lucky enough to get a green card on the visa lottery and he comes to America and he wants to go to college and he works 3 jobs and he's doing 14-hour fucking shifts in McDonald's and then he comes over here and he goes, oh, I just need an education. And they're like, sorry, mate, you're too privileged. We've just got to help this poor black lad out. What, the middle-class black man from Chicago whose mum's a fucking teacher and the dad's a nurse and he gets my spot despite the fact he's got shit grades. Why? Oh, well, because he's black, you know, and they're oppressed. Really? I used to till the fucking fields in Jakarta for 15 hours a day. I didn't have a bed until I came to America. And you're telling me that some middle-class black man gets my spot with his shitty grades? It's racism. Doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. It's racist. And everybody knows it. So now the BBC, they write a big fluff piece, load of fucking shite. Oh, Gallup poll said Americans were in favour of affirmative action. Don't care. Okay, the BBC, as usual, will do anything, move any mountain to obfuscate the point and make out as if, oh, it's brilliant. Affirmative action's brilliant. Yeah, of course it is. It fucked people. And look at that. Well, lo and behold, 74% of Americans, including a majority of black and Latino people, said that race should not be factored into college admissions processes because, guess what? They can do basic fucking maths as well. Middle class black and Latino people in America who are like second or third or fourth or fifth or whatever, blacks, some have been here fucking hundreds of years. They'll be like, hang on, my life isn't that hard. I feel sorry for some poor motherfucker who comes over here from a third world country and works twice as hard as me. And I was born and raised in America, land of the free, land of opportunity, and both my parents work. And you think just because my great-granddad was born in Mexico, I should get into the university with shitty grades ahead of some poor fucking Bangladeshi bloke who works his tits off all the time. Everybody knows what it is. So there you go. Even the black and Latino respondents know what it is. It's shocking, it's racist, and it needs to end. And I don't give a fuck what the BBC says about it. They should end race-based US college entry. Because the normal people, I was going to say conservatives, but normal people believe in a meritocracy. I don't think white people should get an advantage over anybody going into university. And it's not because of my race, because it's basic fairness. It's why most people are against this shit. Basic fairness. You don't look at it and go, because it's such a nebula thing, your race, isn't it? It's way more nebula than your nationality or your region. Like, I don't feel any real kinship with Europeans. It's not like I go, oh yeah, he's French, I prefer him to someone who's Korean. It's like, no, it depends on the bloke, doesn't it? I've met Koreans that are sound and I've met French people that are cunts and vice versa. Something like race is so nebula that no normal person looks at it and goes, oh yeah, you should definitely help the people out there of my race, because you don't even know them all. It's a nebula point. So most people think you should get into college based on your fucking grades and like nothing else. Now else. And as the polling says, that's what black and Latino people think as well. Here's a novel idea. Let people into college who deserve it. Let people in who've got good grades. Don't let people in who've got shite grades. It's not fucking rocket science, is it? Jesus. So yeah, there we go. There's my 2 cents on that one. Easy. What else have we got? I'll do one more before I bugger off. Australia beat Ireland. Who cares about football? Oh, Pogba. That guy is fucking dog shit. Never known a more overrated player than Paul Pogba. What a twat. Seoul. Oh yeah, did you hear about that big one in Seoul? That was fucking mad. I'll tell you what, I'll end on this because I have an opinion as to why this occurs as well, right? The Interone crush, shock and anger as Seoul grieves for its young. If you didn't hear, on Halloween party in Seoul, they all went mental and there was a mass stampede and a lot of people got crushed. I'm sure you've all heard about it. It's been all over the news. Of the 154 who died, 98 were women and 56 were men. There is speculation that the women died in greater numbers because they're smaller and found it harder to muscle the way up. Obviously, it's not exact. Again, it's not speculation, is it? It's speculation if you work for the BBC and you think men and women are of the same strength. BBC journalists read that and go, "This doesn't make sense." Hey, I seen Captain Marvel and women kick the fuck out of 10 big blokes. So this doesn't make any sense. It must be a conspiracy. Must be maybe the women were purposely targeted by patriarchs. Maybe that was it. Because women are definitely stronger than men. I seen Natasha fucking, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson kick fuck out of 20 big Russian blokes. So it must have targeted the women on purpose. Only the BBC think it's speculation as to why that is. But basically, I have a theory as to this as well. And I think it's related to the incessant cowardice due to the brainwashing of the media of an entire generation. I seen a video. Some of you might, I don't know, one of you guys might have sent me it, of a load of CrossFitters who were out having a run. I think it was in New York. And there were like 2 groups of 6 or whatever. And they were just out running on the morning, on like a Saturday morning, out doing a bit of training. And they ran past a cafe and it caused a mass panic. I wonder if I can see it. Look. Oh, it was in Brazil. Yeah, there's the story. But basically, it's on Joe. In fact, I'm not going to show you the link because I don't want anyone clicking on left-wing shit. But basically, it was just a load of customers outside a restaurant ran off. Oh, you got and find it on Twitter. There we are. I'll do. So look at this here. CrossFitters running. One of them had a dog. And then for some reason, people start getting up and following them. It causes like a mass panic. Everyone shits themselves and runs off. And I reckon it basically caused a fucking stampede. There's a few more runners, look. That guy's on his fucking ass. Everyone just shit themselves and runs off, right? It's a CrossFit group. You can see by the way they're dressed, look. Like, he's got a dog. They're all wearing shorts and that. And then fucking people just start getting up at random. They all shit themselves. I want to know what the second group of CrossFitters were thinking when they started jogging up. Like, whoa, everyone's feeling fit today. So I think this is linked to what caused that issue. Because we've got a generation now of weak, spineless, perpetual victims who have been trained by the mainstream media to perpetually be afraid. That wouldn't happen to me. That wouldn't happen. If I was sat there, I mean, fucking hell, I'm an Englishman. If I'm having a pint outside a cafe and I've paid for the bastard, I'm not leaving it. You all seen the terrorist attack in London on London Bridge. Most of the blokes running off had the beers with them because they were like, fuck off. Have you seen how expensive a pint is in London? And they were like, I'd be minesweeping. If there was terrorist attack in a restaurant when I was in there, I'd definitely do some minesweeping. I'd grab 3 extra pints before I fucked off out the fire escape. Right? So this is linked, and what's gone on in Korea, to what we've done to a generation. We've convinced them to be scared of their own shadows, to be perpetual victims, to be afraid all the time. And none of those people did what I do because I'm in my 40s and I'm not fucking paranoid, shitting myself 24/7. To actually look and go, is there a threat there? If I look down the road and seen a big beardy weirdy with a fucking nappy on his head going, Allahu Akbar, then I'd go, oh, he's a bit of a cunt. And I'd pick my pint up and toddle off after them. But you at least check to see that there's something to be afraid of. That was just an exercise in abject cowardice and stupidity. And it's because that's what we've done to a generation. That's why we had the crush in Korea. And we'll get more of them whenever you get mass of groups of people come together, since we have pathologized a generation and trained them to be afraid and scared of their own shadows. And it's going to happen more often. And if you want to know how to prevent them, Well, raise your kids properly and tell them you don't have to live your life afraid of everything. You don't have to live your life like a cringing fucking coward and just think everywhere you go, death awaits you. It's irresponsible playing these games. They do it for political reasons. Everyone's out to get you. Everyone's a fucking lunatic. You should be afraid. And then because I want you to be afraid, because if you're afraid all the time, then you're malleable and you'll do as you're told. Be scared all the time. They did it for 2 years. 2 years. It might be related to COVID as well, because they spent 2 years pathologizing a generation, telling them, be afraid, be scared, be scared. Everyone's a threat. Granny killer, wear your face mask. Do as we tell you. Do as we tell you and we'll keep you safe. So this shit, not a surprise to people like you and me. And it's going to keep happening because we've pathologized a nation, a generation of young people and created a bunch of cowards who shit themselves at the drop of a hat and then crush 154 people to death. Easy. Easy. So there you go. Everything is political, even horrific accidents in Korea. Right. I think that'll do us for now, ladies and gents. Nearly an hour. You can have that for now, you twats. Please like it and share it for all the fucking good that it does. And I'll see you all tomorrow. All right? I'm going to one last piss up tonight and then I'm sobering up for a few weeks. Halloween party. Not really my cup of tea and I'm not wearing a costume. But there's free booze. So fucking I'll be on that like white on rice. I'd dress up as a fucking woman. I'd dress up as Boy George's boyfriend for free booze. So there you go. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you all tomorrow. Have a good night. Toodle pip.